everyone. I'm Letitia Scott. The Democratic Ward Committee in Somerville Ward 7 thanks you for joining us today. Today, we will be hearing from our Democratic municipal candidates, mayor, city council, and school committee, who will appear on our November ballot in Ward 7. Every Democratic candidate was invited to participate and give a 4-minute speech about their record of accomplishment and vision for our city. Following today's event, elected members of the Democratic Ward Committee in Ward 7 will consider endorsements in some races. Our first candidate to speak is Councilor Judy Pineda-Neuenfeld. Councilor. Judy, you have 4 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I got muted and then unmuted. Thank you so much, Letitia. It's so good to see so many Ward 7 folks tonight. My name again is Judy Pineda-Neuenfeld. I'm your Ward 7 City Councilor. I am finishing up my first term, so I was elected a couple of years ago and running for re-election for my second term. For those who don't know me or don't know me that well, I'm the daughter of 2 immigrant parents. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, but moved here to attend Tufts University in 2001 and have stayed in Somerville since, minus a couple of years in Florida. So have a strong connection and strong love for this city. I am a new mom. I had a baby 5.5 months ago. You know, having a baby and being a new parent is a transformative experience for those who are parents or caregivers in this space. It really makes the work I do on the city council and the work we all do together in the community that much more important and that much more urgent. When I think about a vision for a more just, a more equitable Somerville, you know, I think about the city and world my son is going to be inheriting and inhabiting as a baby, as a toddler, as a young adult, as a future Somerville High School graduate. We were at Civic Day yesterday and just looking around the high school, and my partner was remarking on how beautiful it was and how important it is for us to invest in our infrastructure for our youth of the city. So that they can thrive. So I definitely looking at the city through a new lens and thinking about accessibility and equity in a different way. So thank you again for all the hard work you all are doing and that we're all doing together. Really proud of the work we've done in the last couple of years. It feels like 10 years on the city council. My colleagues might chuckle at that. I think about and reflect on the themes of the work I've done. A lot's been focused on safe streets and challenges around transportation. Some of my very first orders in 2022 were focused on traffic calming measures, making sure the city is focusing on our most vulnerable neighbors, even things like, making sure the pedestrian sign is there at the crosswalk in front of the Clarendon Hill Towers that for folks to cross the street to Stop and Shop, right? I mean, it's day-to-day quality of life issues. I was an advocate for ensuring that our West Somerville was not cut out of MBTA bus network plan and worked with residents around that. I've sat on the Route 16 coalition and helped to make sure we got that $100,000 from the state for the traffic study for Route 16 and Broadway. And work closely with residents and business owners on the Holland Street reconstruction that's still ongoing. I sit on the Housing and Community Development Committee and like so many of my colleagues, focus on housing as not just a citywide, but regional and statewide crisis. I also sit on the Anti-Displacement Task Force that's working on the rent stabilization home rule petition. Voted this year, like my colleagues, to increase funding for our Office of Housing Stability, and was the only one of the only few that focused budget priorities on transitional housing assistance and thinking about how we're responding to crises and supporting our neighbors when that happens. A lot of you know I worked with the city with our immigrant neighbors during COVID and have worked hard to continue to advocate for language justice. 2 years in a row have prioritized that in my budget priorities, and really proud that that made it to our top 10 priorities as a council in last year's budget. My first ordinance I passed last year, was expanding bereavement leave to include pregnancy loss like miscarriage, stillbirth, and abortion, so that folks have an opportunity to recover. So that went fast. So I'm just thrilled to run for re-election, continue serving this great community and great ward, and looking forward to hearing from my colleagues tonight too.
Thank you, Judy. Our next candidate is Ward7Dems, who is running uncontested for our Ward 7 School Committee rep. Liran, you have 4 minutes.
Thank you, Letitia. Hello, Ward 7. I am so delighted to be here with my neighbors. My name is Ward7Dems, and I am running for school committee in Ward 7 to bring the voice of a parent and member of our West Somerville neighborhood school community to better represent our families and support our students. Many of you may know my wife, Anna, who is on this committee. And she and I have lived together in Somerville for 16 years and here in Teal Square since 2011. Both of our children have attended the West Somerville Neighborhood School right here in Ward 7, and our oldest is now attending Somerville High. In my day job, I'm a scientist at the EPA. I'm a leader in our parent-teacher associations where I have partnered with families across the city to address issues at all of our schools. I'm so proud of what I, in partnership with my fellow parents, have accomplished in our community. I organized a meeting between the PTAs and the mayor to request urgent action on our school buildings well before the failure at the Winter Hill School. Along with Laura Boretsky-Jewell of this group, I led the charge for a new schoolyard to replace our broken and unsafe blacktop. And the schoolyard is now finally open. I just played on it today with my family, and it's amazing. Go swing by with your kids if you haven't already. I made it free to join our PTA, pioneering an inclusive and innovative model of membership that encourages participation. Working with school committee, Somerville Public Schools, City Council, Somerville Police, and the city, I advocated for aggressively filling our vacant crossing guard positions to make sure our students are safe, not just in our school buildings, but on the way to and from our schools. I established a tracking system to help hold our school committee members accountable for commitments they make to our communities. And I will be publicly displaying my own votes on my website. I stood with educators in their efforts to secure a living wage for paraprofessionals. As your representative on school committee, I'll work to improve the programs and resources we offer to our youth and educators. My two major priorities are related to allocating resources and school buildings. On resources, I will double down on our dedication to equity in the district by supporting more resources for push-in services in classrooms. Let's put our money where our values are, to provide the resources that each child needs to reach their full potential. On school buildings, we must do everything we can to support our Winter Hill families while their school building is being replaced. And we must invest in our other school buildings so they never reach the condition that led to the failure at Winter Hill. I am so excited about the opportunities that our children have, and I will be fighting alongside you, parents, teachers, students, and community members, to make sure we're giving our kids the best that we can. Thanks so much for having me here today. And you can contact me and get involved with my campaign. Just visit Liran4 Somerville.com. And thank you once again.
Thank you, Liran. We will now hear from our candidates running for City Councilor at large. This is a contested race citywide with 4 at-large seats on the ballot. Councilor Kristen Strazo will speak first. Kristen, you have 4 minutes.
Okay, now I'm muted. Ward 7, thank you for having me here tonight. I'm Councilor Kristen Strazo, one of your at-large city councilors. I've spent the last 3 years proudly representing our Somerville community. I'm running for re-election and I'm asking for your vote. A little bit about me. I'm a single mom of 2 kids in the Somerville schools. I was raised in a proud union household, spent decades in a feminist punk band, and also acted as the sole caregiver of my elderly grandmother for 12 years. I know the struggles facing Somerville residents because I've lived through them. I ran for office because I knew Somerville needed decision makers who understood the issues at hand. I live in affordable housing, so I know how challenging it is to navigate the available resources and programs without losing hope. And I understand the difficult decisions that many Somerville families make to stay in our community. It took years for my family to find an apartment that could accommodate the needs of my children, my grandmother who had ADA accessibility, and that was also affordable. And it's a blessing I'm grateful for every day. I want every Somerville resident to know this feeling. And in this pivotal time of growth, we need to ensure that everyone can stay in our chosen community. I've been fighting for this by increasing short-term housing solutions like voucher programs, expanding housing stock, and increasing resident support. As the chair of the Housing and Community Development Committee, I work hard to ensure affordable housing continues to be prioritized. I will continue to fight hard for the security and dignity of every Somerville resident. And I've been actively working to do all I can to support our small business community, most predominantly our women and minority-owned businesses, because if we lose our small business community, Somerville loses a part of its identity. I'm very proud of the work I've been doing to ensure reproductive rights and body autonomy are protected at a municipal level. I'm proud to say that other communities have followed Somerville's lead on this. And I've continued to fight for environmental justice and proactive climate change policies such as soundproof barriers in Somerville, one of the most viable actions towards improving air quality. Our climate action plan must center around equity, and our entire city is safe and healthy through this climate crisis. I've helped to increase after-school activities in our elementary schools, and I'm so proud to be part of the work establishing the newly opened free teen centers. I work to make sure that the teen centers are accessible, responsive, and supportive to all Somerville teens with free meals, counseling, fun activities, later hours, and a safe place to simply just be. I'm grateful to have the support of the Greater Boston Labor Council, Vote Mama, Mass Women's Political Caucus, Sierra Club, and numerous local unions. I'm the only candidate in Massachusetts endorsed by bold progressives in this election cycle. And I will continue to ensure that you are heard, that you are valued, and that you are responded to. I will continue to fight my hardest for you and ensure you're living your best life here in Somerville. I want Somerville to be a place where all can thrive, young and old. And we've started this together, and we're going to get it done together too. There's so much more we're going to do in the years to come, and I'm asking for your vote this November 7th.
Thank you, Kristen. Our next candidate running for City Councilor at Large is a former City Councilor, Ward7Dems. Will, you have 4 minutes.
Thank you, Leticia, and thank you, Ward7 Committee, for hosting this forum. My name is Ward7Dems. I'm a candidate for Somerville City Councilor at Large. I'm really delighted to be here with you all. When I serve on the City Council, we put in place many of the key programs of the progressive agenda. In particular, housing stability, diversity, and social justice. COVID then disrupted things, but now we have the opportunity to accomplish all the practical tasks that will make these programs work better and expand their reach. I got back on the campaign trail this year because we have so much work to do, and I want to keep working to make this amazing city even more welcoming, inclusive, and effective. The job of a city councilor has 3 main responsibilities. First is to provide leadership on the big issues of policy and programs. This work requires drawing people together to get the best ideas and to create compromises and strategies, and then to help turn these ideas into workable legislation, effective programs, and policy guidelines. Second is to carry out the routine monitoring of government. This means studying plans and budgets, receiving reports from the agencies and posing questions about their performance, tracking statistics and trends, and checking in with citizens to see whether they are satisfied with city services. Third, beyond the big policy questions, a councillor's work involves lots of small practical tasks to improve neighborhoods and the lives of families and individuals. Things like making sure that there are porta potties in our parks and playgrounds and trees on our streets. Those are things that we can all work together to accomplish. And one of the things I helped to do back in 2018 and 2019 was to draft and complete the ordinance that remove plastic utensils and containers from our Somerville restaurants and food shops. This was a practical action that has made a lasting contribution to environmental quality. Right now, there are 3 issues I see as the most pressing. First, we need to support City Council proposals to assist unhoused people who have been congregating around Davis Square and East Broadway. These actions will combine needed services for the unhoused, such as warm shelters for the winter, with added safety protections for the community. Second, we have to keep up the momentum of expansion and support for our programs of affordable housing and housing stabilization. The regional economy may not be as strong in the next few years, and this will aggravate the shortage of housing units and increase the risk of displacement for lower income families. At the same time, we may see less revenue and grants from which we can draw housing funding. All aspects of this work, planning, programming, and budgeting, will have to be the top priority. Third, capital investment in city infrastructures and facilities has to be a major priority. This summer, the city had to scramble to shut down Winter Hill School and make sure children had alternative classrooms for the fall. Fortunately, city leaders and residents can adapt in crisis, but this is not a good way to manage city resources, and we need to be carefully reorganize our capital planning to better anticipate our needs for repairs and improvement. Working together, we can get a great deal done. I'm really grateful to be here. I'll be honored to have your vote, and thank you again for your civic engagement. God bless you.
Thanks, Will. Our next candidate running for City Councilor at Large is Councilor Jake Wilson. Jake, you have 4 minutes.
Hi, I'm Jake Wilson, he, him pronouns, your City Councilor at Large. I'm delighted to be here virtually with you all, and I want to thank the Ward7Dems for putting on this event. It's looking like it might possibly be a low turnout election, so I really appreciate folks taking an interest in the at-large race here. I'm in my first term on the council, and I'm loving this work as an outgoing extrovert who loves problem solving. A role where I talk to folks and try to come up with solutions is right there in my wheelhouse. So I'm hopeful the people of Somerville are liking what I'm bringing to the role and would like to see me continue in this. A bit about me for those who don't know me. I've lived on Jake Street here in the Winter Hill neighborhood since 2004. My wife, Catherine, works in biotech in Kendall Square, and my 2 daughters are in the 4th and 7th grade at the Healy School. My background is in journalism, communications, and nonprofit leadership. Many of you knew me before my time on the council for my time leading Somerville Youth Soccer and Friends of the Healy School, where I got my start in community organizing with the Healy Schoolyard Project. So I'll add, I'm so glad to see the West getting its own renovated schoolyard. Between the time I spend at Dilboy Stadium as a parent and coach, events at the West Somerville Neighborhood School, and my councilor at large work, meeting with constituents, I spend my fair share of time in your ward. So I see firsthand and hear about the challenges and frustrations of West Somerville around things like traffic violence, rodent issues, issues affecting the seniors there, issues with some issues involving the Tufts community, and just a variety of things. So I'm a member of the Route 16 Traffic Calming Coalition and was happy to co-sponsor a resolution with Councilor Pineda Neufeld this past Thursday on behalf of the group to observe the World Day of Remembrance for road traffic victims later this month. There's going to be a ceremony likely at Dilboy Stadium for that. So we're working on trying to make sure the Route 16 becomes more of a, we'll say, a humane road running through Ward 7 as opposed to the current mess that it is. Everyone in Somerville has a ward councilor, so I've used the at-large role as both focusing on citywide issues and then working with ward counselors on ward-specific issues where we can be sort of a force multiplier in joining them on some of that really worthy work. When I was elected 2 years ago, I was advised to focus on 2 or 3 key issues. It is tough for me to limit myself like that, but I would say my top issues have been affordable housing, where I've worked extensively on proposed large-scale housing developments with a major affordable housing component in the city. And I'll say I was thrilled to see the Clarendon Hill project move forward. I was there at the groundbreaking earlier this year, and very excited to see that become a reality here in West Somerville. Safe streets are a major issue for me on the council. I like to say that walking around one city shouldn't be a high-risk activity. I make sure, just as a matter of policy, to sign on to colleagues' council orders on safe streets improvements whenever those are made as a sign of support for that. And then finally, equity is a huge issue for me that I like to work on in the city. Just making sure everyone has not just a seat at the table, but a voice in decisions that are made here in Somerville. Too often that has not been the case over the years. So just working to make sure that we hear from everyone in the city. I'm a big believer in excellent communications, public information, civic engagement, and I've made this a priority as your councilor at large by answering your emails, calls, and texts. I hold regular Sunday office hours and on-demand office hours that align with constituent schedules. And I've been averaging 2 email newsletters a month during this term, and I'm active on social media where I enjoy engaging with constituents. I'm always here for you, and I'm looking forward to Tuesday's Ward 7 City Hall community meeting at the West. I hope to see you all there. Thanks.
Thanks, Jake. Our next candidate running for City Councilor at Large is Councilor Willie Burnley. Willie, you have 4 minutes.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me? Gonna take that as a yes. Okay. Thank you. Hey everybody, my name is Willie Burnley Jr. I'm a renter who lives on Winter Hill near Magoon Square, a community organizer. I used to be a Teamster with Ed Markey's campaign, and one of your at-large Somerville City Councilors. I've been really blessed to take on this role for almost 2 years now, and to have made a lot of progress on my stated goals in this role. In my first campaign, I endeavored to build a coalition powerful enough to shatter a status quo that wasn't working for working people, to empower residents to make sure that they can have control of their community and make it as safe and stable as possible. In that campaign, we received endorsements from many unions. I actually just got endorsed by UAW Region 9A and was down in Mansfield with them on the picket line, which I feel really emboldened and empowered by. Received organizational support from environmental groups, as well as 3 members of Congress. Was endorsed by Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, Senator Elizabeth Warren, and Senator Ed Markey. And I've tried to use all the support I've received from these organizations, but most importantly from residents like yourself, to pass as much bold policy as I possibly can. And I'm glad to say that during this term, at least, I've passed more laws than any other councilor, as far as I've counted, including making Somerville a gender-affirming healthcare sanctuary and a reproductive sanctuary for folks outside of our community who have to flee just draconian, unbearable, and unconscionable laws. Passed a first in the nation non-discrimination ordinance for non-traditional families, including polyamorous ones. And I just actually introduced a safe streets ordinance to expedite bike lanes for our city's bicycle network plan. And we're going to be working on that very intentionally over the next few months to ensure that we have a process that allows for communication to residents about changes to streets, pathways for feedback, and primarily and most importantly, that we ensure that no one has to ever be harmed on our streets again because of poor infrastructure and poor investments. I feel really proud of the work that I've been able to do, whether it's on the council or by partnering with the school committee. I was able to help get a policy passed to have LGBTQ explicit and consent-centric sex ed in our schools, which is something we did not have written in policy, as well as supports for our business community and in terms of equity by making sure that we got a disparity study to make sure that our city is actually having contracts with small businesses that are owned by women and people of color at equitable rates. And that we aren't just, perpetuating the same cycle of disinvestment in our neighbors and our communities that has happened for so long. But despite having tried to do as much as I possibly can in this year and a half, I know that there's a lot more that needs to be done, which is why I'm running for re-election, and I'd love your support. I'm hopeful that if I am able to be reelected, I will be able to continue to fight for other bold policies, such as abolishing medical debt in Somerville, using ARPA funds. I've worked with a nonprofit, RIP Medical Debt, to bring forward a plan to the mayor to use $250,000 of federal funds to eliminate over $11 million of medical debt for residents through buying up debt. That's something that allows you to buy people's healthcare debt for pennies on the dollar. You can, for every dollar invested in that, you can get up to $100 of debt abolished or canceled. I've put forward other bills that I'm still waiting to pass, such as expanding municipal employee benefits by allowing survivors of violence to have paid leave, which the city is entirely able to do by itself without state approval, but is not a part of our laws currently. I'm someone who believes that if someone is in a position of vulnerability and is harmed, they shouldn't have to lose time off. They shouldn't have to lose money because of those situations. Our city should have our residents and our employees' backs. And I'm very, very excited to be working on the rent stabilization policy that Somerville is considering as a member of the Legislative Matters Committee. But I know that if we had policy as good as the values of our residents, we would be far ahead of where we currently are. And I'm trying every day to speed up our processes and make sure that we have a community that can be stable and not be displaced out of our homes like I was before I was elected. Back in 2017, I got displaced when my rent went up hundreds of dollars very suddenly. And I not only had to leave Somerville, I had to leave the state of Massachusetts and work my way back here, which is why I'm so deeply, deeply passionate about making sure that we show up for every one of our neighbors, no matter how rich, how poor, where their background is, and make sure that if they want to call Somerville home, they can, and that they will be able to continue to do so. I know that we can do that if we come together around the policies that match our values, and I'm going to fight like heck to do it. And I hope you'll support me in that fight. Thank you.
Thanks, Willie. Lastly, we will hear from Mayor Katiana Valentine, who is running for re-election in a contested race. Katiana, you have 4 minutes.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Katiana Ballantyne, and I have the great fortune of being your mayor of Somerville. And I'm running for re-election, and I humbly ask for your vote. My immigrant experience has taught me to value differences. My professional experience has taught me to value inclusive leadership. And my vision for Somerville is an inclusive, equitable city where we can all thrive together. I've been reflecting on the nearly 30 years of advocacy I've done hand in hand with so many of you for the Green Line extension, making our streets safer, working for more affordable housing, and creating workforce development opportunities, establishing the highest requirement of sustainability for buildings infrastructure, and the natural environment in order to combat climate change, lifting people out of poverty, and reflecting how relevant the work that we started nearly 3 decades ago still remains relevant today. After all this reflection, it's clear that the values are the through line. Our Somerville values, our commitment to affordability, equity, sustainability, and opportunity for every one of our neighbors have been at the heart of my career, and they have been at the heart of my first term as your mayor. Together, we are living those values, and we've started to realize our shared vision for a more inclusive and equitable Somerville for all. We have much progress to celebrate, and in so many ways, our city is setting the pace for progress across the Commonwealth and even the nation. When I delivered my first message to the city, I asserted that in order to create progress for all, we needed to lay the foundation for progress. With your partnership, that's exactly what we've been doing. Like adding over $30 million of affordable housing investments, including firsts like creating the Land Acquisition Fund, a municipal voucher program, and like having 500 fully permitted affordable housing units in the construction pipeline now. Celebrating together the long-awaited openings of the Green Line extension and Community Path, building more traffic calming treatments to make our public ways safer for all users. We've opened the first ever 2 youth centers, which I'm so proud of. And we've certainly funded seniors so they can get taxi rides to their doctors and to the grocery stores. We've added substantial quality of life investments in rodent controls, infrastructure, school buildings, and repaving our roads. With all that we've made happen together, we know that the foundation is not fully set. We know that our continued collective efforts are still needed to expand and secure Somerville's inclusive future. More work remains on affordable housing, rebuilding our buildings and infrastructure, helping our residents in need, and lifting people out of poverty. We must continue to address the existential threat that is the climate crisis. Now more than ever, women and families need us in their corner. Our foundation to do this work is strong, and in the years ahead, we will not only make it stronger, but we will build upon it so that everyone in Somerville benefits. We will keep working to translate our shared Somerville values, the values that have driven me throughout my career, into inclusive policies and tangible progress for all. But we are just getting started. I ask you for your support on Election Day as we recommit ourselves to building an inclusive, equitable Somerville. Thank you.
Thanks, Tatiana. And once again, thank you all for joining us today online. Your engagement and support will determine who will lead our city for the next 2 years. And we hope these presentations will help you make an informed decision November 7th. The Ward 7 Democratic Committee will announce its endorsement decisions next week, and we wish you all the best. Please stay tuned, and may God bless Somerville. Good night, everyone. Bye.